Oh, thank you so much. So let me just get situated. I'm going to share my screens here to get started. Um, so give me just a moment. There we go. I think we're set. Okay. Okay. Um, is this the first time for anybody here with me? This is part 4. Okay. So I didn't put a lot about me because I've been talking and sharing. So I'm a chiropractor by trade and I have a master's in spiritual psychology because I understood the value of really understanding how the mind works and how it affects the body, and really diving into everything from nutrition, why we choose the foods we do, and then into the emotional health, what I'm going to do today. And really the goal of what I want is to really give as much information so that you feel empowered to go through the emotions that you're feeling, all of it, and do it in a way that you can feel like using your emotions to your advantage instead of being leveraged by them, instead of feeling scared of them, and especially not getting stuck in them to the place where you feel like you stuff them away or hide them or don't want to feel them because they feel too overwhelming. So today is part 4. If you've met any of the previous workshops, they are recorded and they're on my YouTube. You can ask Rebecca, she'll get all of those for you. So today you don't, even if you hadn't shown up to any of the previous ones, each one is a standalone. So don't worry about if you missed the first ones or missing information, you'll totally be fine. So I title this, really, it's about becoming fiercely alive. And it's really about, it's a picture there of just getting to the place where your emotions, they don't control you and you're able to feel empowered by them. And having the confidence comes from not feeling afraid of them. And so it really starts with, what is the point of feelings? Why do we have emotions? It's about turning them into a superpower, because once you understand how they work, you are like, oh my gosh, you almost want to lean into them. You're like, come on, feelings, let's go. Because you realize it's a gift to have them when you understand how to use them. So I love this picture, this quote here, just because it's really kind of how we all start when we see emotions. They're like, ew, emotions, feelings, they're yucky, they're icky, they get in the way. And honestly, that's kind of how I grew up. I was taught like emotions have no place, they get in the way, get rid of them. But really, once I understood that emotions are really about how we connect with others and ourselves, but it's how we engage with the world, how we interpret the world. It gives meaning to the people and places and events of our life. And so this is about not judging feelings as good or bad or right or wrong. It's allowing the entire collection of feelings to show up. And I use the example of, when we first start to, like in kindergarten, they give us crayons, they give us like an 8-pack of crayons of colors. And okay, it's fine, it does a job. But there's a point where you're like, 8, but I want all the other colors that I see in nature. And I remember at Christmas when I got that pack of 64, which was amazing. And then 120, which was even better. And I laughed because when I bought myself my pack of colored pencils, there's 172 colors. And I love all the different shades of pinks and blues and the subtle differences. And that's how I feel emotions and feelings are. It's the subtle differences that allows us to give color to our life, to what we see, and meaning with it. So I put up, this is probably one of the most iconic of Burning Man, probably 5-7 years ago, one of their statues. And it really, for me, is about the quote that if you never heal from what hurt you, you'll bleed on those who didn't cut you. And this picture is really about how emotions, if we don't use them to our advantage, how they really end up being the thing that creates such distance and gap and disconnects us from the people that we love. And emotions really do how we learn from in childhood is until we learn how to do it properly, whatever we learned in childhood is what we do. And it's that inner child of us that it's like, I don't know what to do, that ends up just throwing tantrums or withdrawing and feeling afraid. So I'm going to help you have the courage to feel them, because I love this quote from Jan Van Zant, which is, the truth will set you free, but first you must endure the labor pains of birthing it. And that's what emotions are there, is to let you know there's something that's bubbling up to the surface, something that you need to look at in order to feel it, in order to deal with it, in order to heal it. And it does take courage. It really does. There's a mindset where you just go, okay, it's uncomfortable. Okay, it feels really hard. And then, okay, I'll feel it. And I'll do the work to get to the root of it, to pull it out. So I want to hear, you don't have to just kind of, show of hands if you want, but I love the Muppets. And I love this because when I get triggered, there's times where I feel like all the Muppets in my mind are all over the place and they don't know what to do and they're all talking. And this is really kind of a poster symbol of if each one of these characters was an emotion, they're all in us and in our mind at the same time. And it's really about, all right, what do we do with it? Do we react? Are we able to respond? It's really about, are we able to see the emotions that we have as friends, as, part of the characters that we have, that we live with, that are part of us. And it's learning to appreciate what each one has, because it's the cast of characters that create the story. It's the cast of characters that makes it interesting. So learning how to look at the cast of emotional characters that you have in your heart, in your mind, and be like, hey, I'm going to make friends with them. And I think I'm going to like them, even if they're really, really uncomfortable. So I want to talk about, different emotions today we're going to go through. And really, I'm going to start with anger and rage, because this tends to be one of the most common ones and also one of the most challenging ones. Because my goal is really to help you understand that emotions show up when we are triggered to let us know that there's something that needs our attention. And oftentimes we think that what we feel is based on what is happening in current time. And it could be that it's something that's in current time. But most of the time, the reason that we're triggered is because of something from our past. Now, it could be the past a year ago, and it could be 40 years ago. And so anger and rage were the ones that, for me, I grew up. So this is a picture of me with my mom and my dad, and they divorced when I was really young. And I felt growing up, I was born in 71. So I grew up in the 70s where there weren't a lot of biracial kids, and it really wasn't common. And so I felt like I either had to choose, with being with my mom and being white and French, and being with my dad and Black, but I didn't really fit with either. And I was made fun of, I was bullied, I was criticized, like a lot of negative things that I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to fit in. And there was a lot of rage inside of me because I didn't understand what was happening. I didn't understand why people were so mean and critical of both my parents for different reasons. And so for me, that anger and that rage, what I understood when I started to really dissect all of my emotions, anger, like every emotion, has a deeper meaning. There's roots about what is popping, what's coming up, and what it's connected to. Anger is really about a couple things. One, it's grief that has not been healed and dealt with properly all the way through. But anger lets us know when a boundary has been broken, when we see an injustice, when there's something that we either experience it or we're watching it, anger shows up because the purpose of anger is it's supposed to fuel us to take action. Now, if we don't understand that, then instead of taking appropriate action, we tend to react and do things that may not be appropriate, and then lashing out, and then we have to clean up the mess on top of the other mess and everything else after. But when we understand that anger is letting us know a boundary has been broken, well, that's where we start to look and go, okay, did we know that the boundary was broken? Yes, because we feel it. But did we know that was the boundary even set? Sometimes you got to start with, I didn't know that I needed a boundary. It seemed obvious or it seemed common sense, but clearly not, that we needed to actually speak it and share it with the people involved. And sometimes we also have to be honest and realize we broke our own boundary. And we break our own boundaries when we betray our own sense of values, our character, integrity, all of those things. We may say that we are mad at someone else or something else, but really what's happening is we realize that we betrayed ourselves and betrayed our sense of our moral compass. So anger, and the reason I put rage there is rage is also anger, just at a deeper intensity. And just like all emotions, there are different intensities. So anger could also, a lighter version is going to be, you could be irritated or frustrated, a little annoyed, and then anger and then rage. So it's the intensity that changes, but the meaning is still there. And if we look deeper with any emotion, but especially anger, it's going to be fear. And I'll talk about that a little bit later because rage is also fear, but rage is a deeper fear. It's terror. And there's something in us that feels terrified of whether, like I said, person, a place, a thing, a situation, something is going on and it's showing up. So I'm going to keep going, but I want to just feel free to put a question in the chat as I go through a couple of the different emotions to make sure that you understand what I'm going through with different emotions. So feel free to ask questions in the chat. Because ultimately emotions, if they're not expressed and repressed and we ignore them, they cost us energy in the form of, it sucks the energy out of us. It sucks the energy out to have to pretend that they're not there. It takes a lot of energy to pretend that we are not upset when we are. It takes a lot of energy to pretend that everything's fine when it's not. And it's fine to do it during the day if you're like, well, yeah, I'm mad, but I've got to work right now. I got to take care of business. Yes. But then what happens is if you make a promise to yourself and say, I'll handle it when I get home later tonight, well, then you better handle it when you get home at night because your mind will not forget. And if you don't handle it and you decide that you're tired and you're going to go to sleep, your mind goes, well, hey, now I have your undivided attention. So how about I don't let you sleep and make you think about whatever it is that bothered you today, and you can handle it now at 11 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the morning. And your mind is like, see, you didn't want to talk to me then. I'm going to make you talk to me now. But it costs us over time. It really does start to drain the energy because it takes so much effort to just go on as if everything is fine when it's not. So this is where we're going to get into the weeds and be like, okay, how do you feel what hurts and what is uncomfortable without getting lost? Because when I'm doing this work with clients, that's actually one of the first fears that people bring up that scares them. They're like, I'm scared that I'm going to get lost in it. I'm scared that I'm going to get lost in the feeling and not be able to get out. And that's a valid concern. And because if we haven't been taught how to get through it to the other side, it feels like Pandora's box where it's just like we're just stuck in it all. All right. So you went into feel it and you have to welcome them. There's like, if you think about every emotion, every uncomfortable feeling, as a 4 or 5-year-old toddler, throwing a tantrum, running into the room, interrupting whatever you're doing. You have to be able to say, oh, you know what? Okay, I'm going to turn and look at this toddler and welcome them and allow them to show up, allow them to say what they're feeling. And this is where the work, which is allowing the feelings to reveal the message that it has for you. Because that's what feelings are. They're messengers. Just like if you have the sensation and you're hungry, you don't get mad at hunger, because hunger, you realize, well, it's just a message, your body letting you know that you need some nourishment. And if you're tired, you're like, okay, I need some rest. So you don't get angry and try to dismiss it. You acknowledge it and handle it. And emotions are the same way. There's messages that once you understand that, you go, oh, okay, well, let me hear the message. And then the feeling will go through and be done. So like I said, anger is about grief. It's about boundaries that have been broken. And there's fear below that. So I picked some of the most common ones that I hear from my clients. So jealousy and envy comes up. And while they are similar, they are not the same. So I like these because, the green-eyed monster gets a bad rap. It's the green eyes of jealousy, but it's not a monster. And with the since social media, jealousy and envy have been around, since the beginning of time. But with social media, they have been heightened at such a level, especially for men and women, but really a lot with our teens, college age, our youth. And so that's why it shows up so much. So what are they really about? When they show up, jealousy is really about wanting what somebody else has for who they are or how they are. Where envy is wanting what somebody else has for what they do. So that's where they're going to be similar, but not the same. Jealousy is going to be about who they are. It could be, just their personality. Maybe they're, very charming and charismatic. Maybe they're able to talk and be social. They're really comfortable in that space. Maybe they're just comfortable talking to people no matter where they are. They can make friends. They can be in a group and are totally comfortable. So it's jealousy about who they are. Envy is wanting what they have, what they do. So it could be a spouse. It could be a home. It could be their job. It's something that while it's theirs, it's not inherent to who they are. It's something that they've been given. Maybe they worked for it. However they got it, it doesn't matter. But it's just something that is what they do. So I want to make sure that this makes sense, because this is one of those where just having the understanding, a definition that's slightly different, because the way the mind works, when we feel hungry, their mind says, oh, okay, well, let me try to solve that and look for food and solve the problem. Well, when it comes to our feelings, once we're able to give it a word and give it a something that the mind can understand, the mind now is like, oh, okay, well, there's a problem to solve. Not because it's bad or wrong to feel it. It just, your mind says, oh, we're feeling jealous. Oh, okay, well, that's a problem. Let's figure out how to solve it. Oh, feeling envious. Oh, okay. Let's go figure out how to solve it. And so what this does is it gives your mind a job. And as soon as you're able to give the word to what you feel, your mind says, I'll take it from here and I will do what I can to solve the problem. Which is why very often you can just, by naming the feeling, you don't have to figure it out yourself. You can go about your day or at night and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I had this really weird dream. It's like almost like solving it at night while you're sleeping, which is like the greatest thing ever. You wake up and you're like, hey, the problem has been solved. I didn't have to do anything. All you had to do was start with feeling the feeling and then putting a word to the feeling. Any questions so far? I want to make sure that this is making sense. Everybody's with me? All right, good.
None in the chat.
Oh, okay, great. So here are some other ones that come up, like disappointment, grief, resentment. And this is where I want to spend a little time, and I want to be able to hear from you. So feel free, because I want to know what emotions feel really challenging for you to feel. And if you're willing to share what they are, then I will help you understand the deeper meaning on what it is, the message that's coming up with that. So disappointment is connected to an expectation that you had. There is an expectation of something or someone, whatever it was, you had an expectation that you placed on it. And when it didn't happen or it didn't match your expectation, there's disappointment. So what disappointment is letting you know is that, well, was what you were expecting, what you were, the attachment, was it appropriate? Was it accurate? And this is especially important when it comes to other people. What expectations are we putting on other people, expecting them to do something, especially if we don't even tell them, we don't even have an agreement, they don't even know about it, and then they don't do it, we're upset. We're like, how did you not do that? And then we feel disappointment in them. So part of what disappointment is letting you know is, well, did you have an agreement in place? Was an agreement even talked about, hey, if this, I need you to do this, maybe, whatever, cook dinner, clean the house, something. And then it was, well, was it clear? Because, oh, we're going to have dinner, but did you discuss the details of maybe what you're going to eat or at what time, for how many? So oftentimes disappointment is letting us know that there were a lot of details that were implied but not spoken about, or there was an agreement that you had in your mind, but you didn't talk about it. So that's what disappointment is there to let you know. Oh, okay, let's reevaluate the expectations, then see what was there. And let's see if we need to have a conversation to make sure that they're clear. Because that's the thing about expectations is, and agreements, you may want something and ask for it, but the other person also has the right to say no and decline it. And if they tell you no, then okay. I mean, it depends on the situation. You could talk about it. But if you know that they are not interested and don't want it, then you can take off the expectation and not feel disappointed in them for not meeting your standards and your agreement. All right. So grief. Grief has a lot of energy to it. Grief can be felt very deeply. And grief is one of those emotions that we can get stuck in, because grief is a loss. And it's easy to think about when it's the loss of a loved one. We understand the process of grieving. But there's also grief about loss of things like a job. Because people think, oh, it's just a job. You didn't even like your job. Why are you upset? Well, you grieve the family that you've created, maybe in the workplace, the people. You can grieve that the comfort and the security and the safety that that job meant for you. There can be loss of the grief when it comes to loss of health, because you're grieving what you want to be doing and feel limited by your physical body when you can't do it. So it's being able to recognize that grief shows up to let you know that there's a loss, that there's something that you are missing. And if you go deeper, really what grief is, it's something that when there's love in your heart for, and that love has nowhere to go. And so it can be a person, it can be your health, it can be a home, it could be a pet. but it's something that matters to you, that you have deep feelings for, that you have love for, that no longer is there. So your love has nowhere to go and you have nowhere to express it and share it. And part of what allows us to feel really good as humans and connected is offering the gift of our love in some way. And so if we don't have a way to show it or let it flow, we feel that as grief because our love doesn't have a place to flow. Is that making sense? Yeah, okay. Any questions on either one of those? I thought I saw something in the chat and then it disappeared on me. So
Yeah. So my expectation with my family, I think of origin, is that everyone will act normally, but we all continue to disappoint each other. Smiley face.
okay. So the expectation that everybody will act normally. I love this because we get to dissect, well, what exactly does normally mean? And then we start to go with, does everybody have the same definition of normal? What's normal for one is not necessarily normal for somebody else. So this is where allowing conversations to happen, not, oh, I have to fix it, but I want to understand. So then you go with, well, let's talk about what is considered normal for our family. What is it we would like normal to look like individually and as a family and people around us? And what you'll find is we may use the same words, but we don't all have the same meaning for those words. So somebody is like, yes, I'm totally acting normal. This is what normal is. And then somebody else is like, you're acting different. That's not normal. And that's where the conflict is happening of the definition of what that looks like. And so that's just part of the conversation of it's, we talk about act normal. Well, what are the actions that imply normal? Is it that, we talk about everything in this family, we talk about every diagnosis, every treatment, every doctor's appointment? That's normal for some. Some might say, we don't need to talk about everything all the time, every day. I don't want to. That would be normal. There's no right or wrong. It's whatever your preferences are, whatever works, being able to share it and express it and understand the definitions of actions and words so that you're all on the same page. Did that help answer that question? I can't see faces, so I don't know who's, I can see a few, so I don't know whoever asked it, if it helps, if that asks. Okay.
There's another comment.
Okay.
I don't like conflict, so I do anything to avoid it, mostly shut it inside.
Welcome to being human. Humans don't like conflict. Humans learn a skill of how to navigate conflict. It's a skill that is learned. Some learn it early. Some have an easier time learning it, but it's a skill that can be learned by everybody. It's like a sport. Some people are just naturally good at some sports and others have to work really hard at it. Okay. So conflict, one of the first ways of dealing with conflict is figuring it out for yourself what the conflict actually is. Because once you are able to understand and have clarity about, well, what is it that the conflict is? Then you can start thinking about, well, what is the outcome I would like to have in this situation? Once you have determined what it is you want, why you want it, why does it matter to you, then you can start to express that to somebody else with a sense of, you can ask for this, or you can ask for help, you can ask for whatever the it is, you can ask. And if you are speaking, like if you're in a conflict and all you're doing is speaking, hoping the other person is going to make sense of the conflict for you and then resolve it for you, you're going to get frustrated and angry and then shut down. So what that is telling me when you say you shut down is you're not sure how to show up with somebody in a conflict. So I will say you show up with yourself first. Sit with it and think about what is the actual issue that is creating the conflict. And what outcome would you like to have for this conflict? Now, I'm not saying you're going to get the outcome that you want. There's no promises, no guarantees. But if you actually are clear on what outcome you want, now you have a better chance of actually being able to speak it and share it and ask for it and actually resolving it. But it doesn't mean it's going to be comfortable necessarily. So part of one of my first slides with the lion, with the blood on him, was about the courage to feel. And this is exactly that. So feeling conflict means speaking up even when you feel uncomfortable, doing the internal work even when you feel uncomfortable. It's all about how uncomfortable are you willing to feel. Now, when I say that, it doesn't mean sit in the discomfort and just let it stew in you. You don't stay there, but you feel it long enough to feel what it means to feel through it. There's a lot of different studies about how long it takes feelings to go through, that when you actually feel it, it could be anywhere from 8 seconds. I think the one thing that I saw was like the longest, it was like 90 seconds. So somewhere between, 10 seconds and 90 seconds is about how long you'll feel uncomfortable if you lean into it and allow yourself to feel it. So how does that help? Does that help you with understanding conflict? So as you answer, I want to see if there are any other comments because I can't see them.
Yeah. Yes, there was a response that said yes to what you just said about avoiding conflict. The next comment is dad's family, quote unquote, normal was resentment and passive aggressiveness. So I'm working on rewiring my patterns that I picked up from them. Hard days, it feels like being surrounded by triggers.
Okay. So resentment is on the page, so I'll touch into that. But one of the things that may be helpful is when you talk about everything's triggering in your home and normal is, it's so important to be able to have a little bit of time and space on your own first before trying to solve it or asking for help. One of the mistakes people make about feelings is thinking that it's other people's responsibility to make our feelings feel good and make us feel better and make us happy and feel all the fun feelings and none of the others. But it is no one's responsibility to make us feel any way. We can ask for them to be kind. How they act is their responsibility, but your feelings are yours. And every individual, what we feel is our responsibility, no one else's. Now, when I say that, I hear, because there's always somebody, it's like, oh, but if they would just stop doing that, then I could feel better. That's true. However, if you are going to put your feelings on somebody else to take care of them and manage them for you, you are giving away all your power, all your control, and everything that's going to help you feel safe and comfortable. Because when you say, I am willing to be responsible for my own feelings and navigate that, what you'll also realize is it takes you off the hook of making other people also having to deal with other people's feelings. You are not responsible for other people. So you realize, oh, it's a heavier burden to take on your own. Yes, but you got to get rid of everybody else's feelings. So you get to give them back to them. So I say that lightly to try to balance it out, because everything that you are feeling is valid, even if it's other people triggering you, but it's up to you to be able to understand why is it that you are triggered? Why exactly is it that you are bothered? Because if you can not just name the feeling, but then the next step is understanding, well, what was the trigger? Because then when you understand what triggered you, in that question is inherently the answer. Either something changes, you do something, or maybe you ask for somebody else to change something. Okay, that's fair. You can ask. In asking for help or asking somebody to stop, you're not asking them to take care of your feelings. You're just asking them, once you've done the work, maybe it is, not to have the TV on all day. Okay, fair enough. Now, they could say no. And that's where resentment can come in, where you make an ask and you say something, and then somebody says no. Well, what do you do with that? You're like, hey, I'm being vulnerable here. I'm sharing, I'm offering, I'm asking, and you're saying no. Whoa, this is where we start to have to go deeper to be like, who are these people in my life and why are they there? And do I want them there? And oftentimes we don't want to ask those kind of questions because they're really hard, because we don't like the answer that might come up. And that's fair. And I'm not saying do anything about it. I'm saying allow yourself to feel uncomfortable with that and evaluation process. Because anytime you go through a life-altering experience, whether it's with health or divorce or loss, your life is different. And oftentimes the things that matter to you after that are different. And it changes us. Life and hard things change us. They change us at the core of what matters to us and our values. And what'll happen is when we start to get back on our feet, we start evaluating the things around us to know if the things around us are also in alignment to our core values. And that's a hard place to be. And that's actually one of the things that I hear most when I'm working with clients, is that getting through a life-altering event is part one. And then they realize on the other side of it is part two, which is life is different. And now it's evaluating all the things around about what you're going to keep or do or different. And resentment shows up when it's letting you know that, like, a lot of the values that you hold now, things that matter to you, you hold them dearly, but the things around you may not. They may not reflect your values, your core characters. What matters to you now may no longer be reflected in the people, the places, the things that were there before. And that can feel really, really scary. Because below every emotion is fear on some level. And I'll talk about that. But I wanted to go through the first, like, how to break through and break down the emotions. And I love your question. So I hope that I'm able to answer and give you information that helps, that's helpful.
Dr. Natasha, I have two more questions, but would you
Yep.
like to answer them first or continue with your presentation first?
Oh, no, we can answer them because that's
Okay,
I wanted it to be interactive on the
wonderful.
emotions. Yes.
The first one is, you said that it is important to name feelings. What should I do if sometimes I can't name the feelings? It's like something is happening inside, a sense of big worry, but I can't quite identify the exact feeling.
Okay. Love this question. So okay. If you're okay because in the chat, if anybody, I have a PDF of emotion feeling words. And I use this because sometimes I just need to look at the words and look and see what resonates with the feeling, because I don't always know the word. So if anybody would like that PDF, if you're willing to put your email in the chat, I know that at the end, then I can save the chat and I can get your email. If you're comfortable sharing it, I will send it to you. If you prefer to email me first, then at the end, it's on my website. You can email me. I will get you the PDF of the emotion feeling words, because oftentimes you need something to look at, but you'll find that when you look at the words and you're reading words, there is something about, as you read it, there'll be something that you're like, you know what? Yeah, I think that's it. I think that is what I feel. And then I always say part two is keep reading all the words, and just to make sure to see if that's the one. Because sometimes you might go, well, there's like two or three. Well, then use all two or three. And as you go through the process, one will become more clear as to what the actual word is. Thank you for that question. Was there another question with that, Rebecca?
Yes.
Okay.
There is another one. Can you please speak more on how to heal from grief?
I love this. So healing from grief and healing from any emotion is getting to the root of really what that emotion, where it stems from and the root of it. Healing from grief, it's not even that you're healing from it. You're allowing yourself to feel it. And healing it doesn't mean you can heal the situation, but the grief may not be ever completely healed. It just may not feel as intense or last as long or be as frequent, but it's always going to have, grief is one of those that is going to always have a little bit of a lingering in us. So like my mom passed, it'll be 7 years in April, and she passed of ALS. And it took some time to go through the grieving process. And even though I've healed through that, there'll be moments and there'll be times where, whew, I feel it. I feel the sense of grief coming. And it's a sadness because she's not here for me there was something that happened where it's like my mind for a moment forgot that she's not here and I wanted to talk to her or share something, or it'd be like, oh my gosh. And then it's like a moment. But remember I said grief is the love that has nowhere to go. And so part of, I don't want to say healing it, but part of resolving a bit and loosening that is I write my mom letters all the time. I write letters to her because that's how I'm able to still have her present and she's alive with me and I still can connect, and all of the love in my heart has a place to go. It goes on paper. Sometimes I don't keep the letter. I don't have to keep them. Sometimes I just needed to let it out and talk to her, and like I can hear her in my head. I can feel her like she's with me. And so the grief will come up when there's moments where the love is something I wanted to share and she's not here to share it, but I can still allow the love to flow through on paper. And this is where, whether it's writing, it can be for some music, whether you write music, playing music, art, really almost anything that's creative, where there's a creative element to it, is
Poetry.
a place where love can flow through and connect. I hope that helps. I just want to make sure, just for time, that I get through to, because this is the mother lode of all the feelings, is fear. Every uncomfortable feeling, ultimately, when we go deeper, is about fear. But we can't skip the steps, because if you're like, oh, that's just fear, sometimes we miss the message in the process of going through this, the connecting the dots to the bottom. So fear ultimately comes from this place of we feel that we are not being enough. And the being enough is a big X. Maybe we don't feel good enough or brave enough or strong enough or whatever is in the belief that pops up that I am not enough. And so ultimately, all of the fear and all of the lack of feeling enough really is feeling we are not lovable enough. That we feel that there is something in us that is broken or flawed or bad or wrong that is not lovable. And when we judge it as not lovable, then there's a fear that, well, then other people will not find it lovable either. And in that fear, that's what keeps us separated from sharing or talking or asking for help. Anything that comes from this place of, well, I must be whatever, unlovable and not lovable enough, we don't want to share it because we're afraid that someone's going to judge us and leave or harm us or somehow reject us. And so I put this on here because I just, it's one of those quotes. ultimately, as children, somewhere in childhood, it always comes back. It always seems to come back to childhood. In our inner child, where somewhere we picked up the belief that we are not lovable enough. Even if we weren't told that, it's like people outside, it's something that popped into our mind that we believed it to be true when it wasn't. And so grief and every other feeling is oftentimes we got to go back to the wounded child and heal the inner child to really fully release it completely. Because ultimately, our ability to feel the uncomfortable feelings is directly proportional for us to be able to feel the good feelings, to feel love and feel joy and feel hope and feel all the ones that were like, oh, we love these. Everybody loves the good feelings. Well, the thing about feelings is that it's an all or nothing. You don't get to selectively choose, oh, I'm going to feel the loving feelings and disregard the other ones. It's a choice. You're like, if you're going to feel the love, then you're going to have to feel the discomfort and be willing to feel everything. And it can feel so hard to be like, but I don't want to. It's overwhelming. Yeah. But so can feel the love and the joy of other people. And they go together. They really do. That's just how it works, all or none. But also then recognize that our intuition is based on our ability to feel, because intuition it's feelings. It's something's a feeling. It's a gut feeling. It's a feeling. It's a hair on our, it's a
Huh?
feeling. And intuition
Oh,
is
hi,
what,
Natacha.
oh,
I was like, oh,
hello. Oh,
well, I did not.
intuition
Oh,
alerts us
sorry.
to impending danger and upcoming opportunities. And so part of intuition to strengthen it is being willing to listen to what we feel, but being able to trust what we feel. Because everyone always tells me, like, oh, yeah, I have a good intuition. My intuition talks to me. My intuition is strong. I said, yeah, but it's only as strong as if you're willing to trust it enough to take action, even if it goes against what everybody else says. If your gut feeling, you're like, yeah, no, that person, something seems off. And everyone's like, but they're so nice. They're so helpful. They're so great. And you're like, I don't know, something's off. Are you willing to trust your feeling, even if it goes against what everybody else says? That is directly related to how well you are willing to feel all your feelings, do the work to discern things so that you can tell the difference between, is it fear, is it anger, or is it my intuition? Because they are slightly different, but they're very subtle. And the better you get at feeling things, the better you will get at feeling the intuitive hits very, very quickly. So that's where the inner peace and the freedom, the joy, the love, and I love this picture because it's just that it's exactly us. It's our little inner child, our little girl who's like, she's in there. She's like, let's go. Let's take on the world. Let's feel the joy and happiness again. And feeling that love is like, you got to feel it all. So I put this in there because as a reminder, but since we did it earlier, to put your email in the chat, and I will make sure to get that PDF to you of all the emotion feeling words. And then I also just, this can feel overwhelming. And so I wanted to just make sure to offer a gift for anybody who would like one, is a chance to talk with me one-on-one about any feelings or things that are coming up that you don't really know what to do with, so that we can have a private time. There's no charge. It's my gift to you, because it's something that I wish when my mom was sick and when my grandma was going through this, that I had it when my mom was sick. By then I had friends who supported me and coaches and people who supported me. So I want to be able to, that was the promise I made, was to pay it forward. So that's what I want to do. So put your email in the chat or reach out to me. Here's my email. Here's my phone number. You can text me. You can call me. I'll get back to you within a day, within 24 hours. You can text me at 2 in the morning because my phone's in the other room, so you won't wake me up. So don't worry about that. but I just want you to know that you are not alone, that I'm here to support you and I will guide you and offer what I can. So
Wonderful.
want to make sure, then this is just, for those of you who might be new, the Unleash Your Life Force is my podcast. You can find that on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. I've got a bunch of different things on there. So those are where you can find me. The QR code is my website. So you can find more information about me there as well. So I wanted to take a moment and answer any more questions. And then I realized that there's a way to supposed to save the chat. And I think I may have forgotten how to save the chat. So
Dr. Nelson, I have been taking note of all the emails. So I will share
great.
them with you. So thank you.
Okay, let's just do it that way so I don't get lost in my bestie friend called technology that confuses me sometimes. So we've got a few more minutes. Is there any other question or emotion that I can answer within just a few minutes here with the group? Anybody else have a question?
Yes. If there are any general questions that you would like to ask, please feel free to put into the chat or unmute yourself. I have also put my email into the chat in case you would like to get the list of the emotions and don't want to put your email into the chat as well.
Yeah, so feel free. That's why I put my personal information
Yes.
there. So you don't have to put it in the chat. You can reach out to me directly. It's totally fine. Whatever feels comfortable for you.
Well, while people are thinking of questions, I want to say thank you so much, Dr. Nelson, for providing such a wealth of information about this and gives us something to think about.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.